many children that he keeps under control. This is Hera. This is Zeus's wife, god of marriage, or goddess of marriage. She also has fruit in her hand that she is holding. She has a bad temper, so you have to be careful what you say around her. This here is Apollo. He is the great of the gods. He gives them light and heat, and also earth. He's also the god of music and of poetry. This is Zeus's son, the god of creation. This is Hermes. He helps travelers, and also he helps dead go to the underworld. He also makes fire. He has wings on his head and also on his feet, so you can travel fast. Also, he also gives messages to people from the gods. This is Artemis. It says, Zeus is my father,
Booth
and
leaders,
Apollo
please start your 11:20 booth.
is my brother.
Start your 11:20 booth.
I'm the goddess of the forest, and that's why I have a bow and arrows. And the last one is goddess Athena. I'm Apollo's sister. God of Egypt, or goddess of Egypt. I'm also a warrior, and I create many weapons. She is a very smart woman, and Zeus is her father. Do you have any questions? All right. Thank you. Good. There you go.
Okay, Bo.
Courtney, Courtney.
Use the wire to go around the stone, okay? This one is fat, so probably 2 or 3 times around is all. Which is the front? Which one? That's the front. This, the top, or this? Your choice. Better? Okay. Well, now, lay this here.
Where do we just get a smaller piece, Tom? Smaller piece?
This is yours.
Okay. Which one do you like better? This side? that? Like this, or do you want it like this?
Now,
Your choice, don't matter. Like that. Okay. Okay, now how did you do that, Dawn?
I'll do that for you if you want. It's kind of tricky. It's taken me a while to figure this out. Whee! Are you freezing?
Like that wind is just...
Yeah, it's gonna be like this all day too. All right.
That's it. That's it. That's it. Goody.
I know this wind is not helpful, is it? Sometimes these fatter ones are a little harder to do. Okay, take that off. And now, which is the front? That's the front. Okay. We lay this down. The rock slide sometimes. It's a dangerous area.
Greek language connected to sound instead of actual letters. And it show her what your name looks like in Greek. Danny, show her your name. Right.
Would that help if you flip it over? We might, on the one side that might help. You finish your name and we'll try it.
But it's not. The next sound is.
The edge, not that.
Hello, I'm ready
There you go. Good job. Hey, yeah.
Take a bomb to wake him up. Never feel.
Okay, we're gonna go look for these people. We've got a really large group of people who are going to Greece onto the mountain between two big mountains in the valley. They went to Persia through the pass in the mountain, through the valley. And they decided to go underwater at night into the city. There were fires everywhere, and there were a lot of people in the army, and the king was very angry because so many people had died. They planned to kill the king, but the king wasn't there. So they went back to the place where they had been before. So they said, we should fight again. He said, no, wait, we don't want to fight again. So there were patrols of army men, and he said, we have a lot of people, we're ready to fight. We have a lot of people ready to knock down the wall. We can win easily because we have so many people. We can knock down the city walls, the city gates. So again, we met and we talked about war and we made plans and decided the idea is to put hay all the way along the wall, and then the people are going to pretend like they're dead, lay there and pretend like they're dead in the hay. And then we're going to light the hay on fire, so there'll be fire all along the wall. And our plan for battle succeeded, and we pushed back the other army and we won. So the army moved forward, and kept moving forward, and the other soldiers got closer and closer. And then I killed myself. Right. And all the soldiers were facing off, trying to fight. But we never gave up until everyone was dead. We kept fighting until the captain was dead, and all of the soldiers were dead because they lost their captain. But we never gave up, no matter what happened. We kept fighting because Greek soldiers never give up. And that's the story. Thank you very much.
This is my name, ATM Owen Hayes. I'm going to explain to you about the stage here. You see here to the right and to the left, I'll show you what they're here for. A long time ago, the Greek stage looked different. Do you know what it looked like? It was kind of up at an angle. That's how it looked like in the past. But now, stages are flat. There's no angle or anything. I'm going to explain to you what the right of the stage is and what the left of the stage is. Can I have some help, please? Hello. My name is Eurydice. Eurydice. And I'm going to help too. Hello, my name is Bilbo. Bilbo. You're going to help me, right? Sure. Can you please go to the right of the stage, please? The right of the stage. That's right. That's right. Okay. So, I need you to go to the middle of the stage. Well, he's wrong. He's not right. He's in the front of the stage. That is not the middle. Please get in the middle. That's right. I'm going to let you guys know that he is just full of jokes. Now, I need you to move to the front left of the stage. Good job. She's smart. We'll see what he does. I need you to move to the right back of the stage. You're wrong. Right back is over here. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Hello, my name is Pharisee. God was not happy with this community because the queen killed herself. Now the children in this story had just really My name is Kyla. My name is Isma. My name is Antigone. My name is Achilles. We're all brothers and sisters. My mom died and my dad is gone. What do I do?
I'm willing to be king. No, I want to be king. Stop fighting, you all. Here, these two have fought over the kingdom, and now there's a new king. His name is Creon, and here he is. Take your robe. No, you take your robe. Yes. Oh, here, take this robe and untie it. I forbid these two to be buried. You must stand watch over their bodies. You. You to keep it a secret. Of course, you're my sister. Something's bothering me. The king doesn't want to give them a nice burial, just to let my brothers be eaten by birds. But he has forbidden a burial. Can you please help me bury my brothers? Do you think the king will punish us? He has no right to stop me. Well, what are we to do? With or without you helping me, I'm going to bury them. Do you think the king will forbid us or punish us? I'm not worried about, don't worry about me, worry about yourself. Just leave, just go.
Sleeping.
Oh my gosh. Please don't let the king kill me. Please. Hello.
punished to death. I'm gonna slit your throat. You go find who moved the bodies now. Maybe God took the bodies. Would you stop? You're a fool. It was her. She moved the bodies. You did not obey my law. I know. You broke my laws. I'm gonna punish you to death. Me too. I'm guilty too. No, you're not guilty. You are not guilty. I'm guilty. I buried them. I can't love one brother over the other, so I buried them. Your punishment is death. Wait, the gods are angry. Fine. I changed my mind. You will be put in a cave. You need to take her and put her in a cave. Don't worry about just worry about yourself. Don't worry about me. You will be fine. Please forgive her. I love her. Oh, there's plenty of other women. You can find pleasure other places. No, I will die. Are you threatening me? You will die. My father. What? I don't know what to do about your father. I must go save her. Do not. I must. I must follow the king's orders. He's my father, and he told me to come. Do you know where my son is? I don't know. You and you? Oh my gosh. Please don't let the king kill me. I didn't know what happened. It just happened. Your son is dead? What? Now the gods have punished this community and it is in turmoil. The king has made so many mistakes, and I hope that God will forgive the city. Thank you.
I'm going to tell you a story about a man named Ulysses. When he was Ulysses was born and raised on a small island, and he loved living in the country. He was a hunter, a very, very skilled hunter with a bow and arrow. He could shoot straight through 12 hoops. One day, Ulysses was hunting a boar, and when he hit the boar with his spear, the boar gored him in the leg. He went to a doctor to be taken care of, and the doctor knew about Ulysses and how he was raised. He knew about his father being the king, and he took care of his leg. And during the time that the doctor was taking care of Ulysses, Ulysses' father, the king, got sick, got ill, and became weak, and was close to death. Ulysses looked for a wife so that he could have a queen when it was his turn to become king. And he heard about a woman named Helen. He went to where Helen lived, but when he got there, Helen's father, the king, had already chosen another man to marry her. While he was there, he met Helen's cousin, Penelope, and fell in love. And they were married, and they had a son named Telemachus. During that time, there was a war, and a man came to Troy, where Helen was from, and stole Helen from her husband. So Ulysses was called to war, but he didn't want to go to war. He wanted to stay with his wife and his son. So he pretended like he became insane, and he started doing crazy things on the island, like plowing all crooked rows in the field and destroying the land. But other people wanted to prove that he wasn't really crazy, so he would have to go to war. So they took his son, who was a baby, and laid him in front of the plow to see if he was really mad. He would plow over his son. But Ulysses had to stop pretending because he didn't want to kill his son. So he was caught in his act and sent to war. So he joined a large fleet of 12 Greek ships that went to war with Troy. Now, over Greece, there are a lot of different gods, and the gods, when they're angry, cause a lot of problems, and they fight with each other. So the advice that Ulysses got was never make a god angry. So during the course of the war, the gods were arguing back and forth among themselves. And so one side would start to win, and then the other side would start to win, and one god would beat the other god, so one army would beat the other army, and it went back and forth for years. One of the gods' names was Athena, and she came to Ulysses and gave him advice on how to win the war. She said, build a giant horse. So he did. He and his army worked on building a horse the size of a bus. You know, like a school bus? It was that large with big, strong legs, and it was on a cart with wheels. So they built the horse, and they finished it at night, and then everyone packed up camp and left, but they left their fires burning, so it would look like the camp was still there. But secretly, 50 men climbed inside of the horse. When the sun came up, the people who had stolen Helen, the enemies of the war, looked out of the city and saw that all of their enemy soldiers, Ulysses' army, was gone, and only the fires were burning. There was no one to be seen. So they thought, the Greeks have surrendered. That's wonderful, but what's this big horse? Let's take the horse into the city. But there was an argument among the men who said, no, don't take the horse into the city. But other people said, oh, it's no big deal. We're going to bring it into the city anyway. So they brought in this huge horse through the gates. And they had a discussion, what's this horse for? And they said, I believe that Ulysses made it to sacrifice to Athena. So let's use it as a trophy of our war, and let's celebrate. So they brought the horse in, and they felt like they had won because the Greeks surrendered. So they partied, and they drank all night, and they danced. Well, around the middle of the night, everyone was so drunk that they started passing out. So all the men of the city were unconscious, just laying all over the ground where they fell. Then the belly of the horse opened, and the 50 men that were hiding inside the horse came out into the city and opened the gate. And then they called the army that Ulysses was leading, who hadn't actually surrendered, they just were hiding. They came into the city and they took it over, and they won the battle. So So then they all got back into the fleet and headed home. On the way, they stopped at an island where there were beautiful people who were giving them food, drink, and sharing with them. And the leader, the gods were favorable to Ulysses and said, "Where are you headed?" He said, "We're going west, and I want to go home." So the gods took the north and the east and the southern winds, and they put them into a bag and put a lid on it and said, "Take this as a gift, and if you get stuck, if there's a doldrum and there's no wind, then just open it and the wind will take you where you need to go." So only the wind that was leading them home was still free to blow, so they made their way home very quickly. But as they approached the shore, Ulysses was very tired and he fell asleep. Back on the island where Ulysses was from, his son Telemachus was 10 years old, and he looked out at the sea and he saw a ship coming. He saw the fleet coming in, very, very small on the horizon. And he said, "Mother, mother, is that father?" And Penelope said, "Yes, that's my father." So they were watching the ships approach. Well, back on the ship where Ulysses was asleep, the men started getting curious about what's in the bag, what's in the bag. So as they stopped rowing and they opened the bag and let loose all the winds, and the winds took the ship off course and they were lost. So Ulysses woke up and said, "Where are we? We're lost." So where the ship had landed, the people in the fleet started being very, very hungry, and they noticed up on the island that they could see on the distance there were sheep, there were goats, and so they decided to get onto the island to get the food that they needed. So they all got onto the land and they were greeted and everyone fed them and it was great. But then they started noticing that the guys were feeling, the soldiers were feeling ill, and they realized that the food was poisoned. So they said, "Let's get out of here," and they all got back on their ships. So they made their way to another island, and on that island lived the large monster with only one eye called a Cyclops. The men didn't know about the Cyclops, so they were walking around looking for food because they were all so hungry. And they saw this enormous footprint. So they went off in search of the sheep and goats that they planned to kill and eat. And they saw an enormous cave. They went into the cave and they saw bones and huge things in the cave. And right as they went into the cave, the Cyclops came out from hiding, and he spotted them with this one huge eye, and he closed the gate, the entrance of the cave, and they were blocked in. And he said, "You look delicious," and he reached down and grabbed one of the men and ripped him in half and ate him. And Ulysses said, "No, wait, don't eat us." And the Cyclops grabbed the second man and ripped him in half and ate him. And Ulysses says, wait. Man tastes so much better with wine. It makes the flesh so much more delicious. So the Cyclops said, "Give me wine." So they gave him as much wine as they could until he got sleepy. So when the Cyclops drowsed and he was asleep, they decided, what are we going to do? We need to kill him, but we can't get out and we can't open the door to the cave. So they noticed a large log and they carved a point in it into a large spear, and they stabbed the Cyclops in the eye so that he would be blind. So then the Cyclops woke up and he started chasing the people, but he couldn't see where they were, and they were all very quiet, so he couldn't find them because he was blind. But then the Cyclops sheep and goats started bleeding and saying they wanted to go outside. So the Cyclops decided to open the door of the cave to let the sheep and goats go outside to graze. But he kept his hand out so he could count the sheep as they went through, so he could feel the tops of them to know that it was only the sheep and goats going through. Well, Ulysses noticed this and he said, "How can we escape? We can grab onto the underneath of the sheep and goats and ride them out, and the Cyclops won't know because he won't see us, but he won't feel us on the sheep, but because we're underneath on their bellies." So they all grabbed on as fast as they could, and that's how they escaped. They ran back to their fleet and they got onto the ships. Now Ulysses forgot the advice, never make a god angry. And so he turned and he yelled to the Cyclops, "It's Ulysses who has beat you." Well, the Cyclops was angry and he heard what he said, and he yelled to his father that that he had been hurt, and his father was a god. So as the fleet took off, they got to another island where there were giants, and they all got off onto the island still looking for food, but the giants grabbed them in and started biting their heads off. So the soldiers rushed back to the fleet and took off again. Then, as they were going away from the island, the giants started throwing rocks down to their ships and sunk some of the ships. So they made their way from island to island. But remember, they were still hungry. It had been days and days without food. So they landed on an island where there were some very lovely women who were very kind and said, "Here, we'll feed you. We have food." So they welcomed them. But the men were so hungry that they ate like pigs, and they just let the food go all over their face, and they made a mess. And the women said, "These men, they're disgusting. They're like pigs." And so they cast a spell on them and turned them into pigs. But after a little while, they turned them back into people, and the women started falling in love with the men. And the women especially favored Ulysses. But Ulysses said, "I have a wife and a son I haven't seen in years. My son's grown, and I really just want to get home to my family." So the women said, "All right, we'll let you go. But we're going to warn you about dangers. There's going to be some sirens, women who are half women and half bird, and they'll sing beautiful, beautiful songs, and you'll want to die. But don't follow them. And then when you get to the land of the dead, find the spirit of the blind man, and watch for the rocks." And so they warned them about all the dangers to come. So they left the island. They headed toward the area where they'd been warned that the sirens were going to be singing. And Ulysses had a plan where he made earplugs out of beeswax for all of his soldiers and all of his fleet. But he was curious, and he wanted to hear the song of the sirens. So he tied himself to the mast of the ship so he couldn't escape. So all of the men who had their ears plugged, they couldn't hear the enchantment. And they just looked up and saw these ugly women and bird mixed people. But Ulysses heard it, and he thought it was beautiful. But the men who couldn't hear the song, they weren't distracted, and they got him through all of the trouble and all of the rocks. And the fleet, the ship that Ulysses was on, made it through. Then they made it to the land of the dead, and they got out and started asking the spirits of the dead, "Where's the blind man? Where's the blind man?" They said, "I don't know where he is." But so they looked for the blind man. They asked someone else, and he said, "Oh, you'll kill me. I don't know where he is." They found the blind man, and the blind man started warning them about more dangers. And he said, "Remember, it's very important for you to remember all of these things, especially when you see goats and sheep on the mountain. Those belong to Zeus, the god. Don't kill those sheep or Zeus will be mad." So they made it from island to island, looking, still traveling, trying to get home. But when they got to the mountain where Zeus's sheep were, they were so hungry. They decided to forget the warning and go ahead and kill the sheep and goats and eat them. And Zeus was angry. And then they left the island, and they saw a whirlpool, which the blind man had warned them of, where the water was boiling and the water was swirling. And they had to carefully try to make it around the whirlpool so that they didn't get, their ship wasn't sunk. And then there was another monster with 6 serpent heads that tried to eat their boat, but they made it past that too, and they made it through all this trouble. Now, you remember when they ate those goats, even though they were warned not to? The god Zeus saw them eat his goats, and he became angry. So he started throwing lightning bolts at all the ships, and he sunk them all and destroyed the ship that Ulysses was on. So it was shredded into pieces, and Ulysses was hanging on to just one big log, and he floated in the ocean. So then he landed on a beach, and a woman came up to him and said, "Who are you?" And he said, "The gods are angry with me. They've destroyed my ship. I've been gone. I've been traveling." And he told his whole story. Well, the woman was Athena, the goddess, and she said, "This isn't right that this has happened to you. This is terrible." So she called Hermes, the messenger god, and sent him to take care of Ulysses and help him get home. and to tell the woman who was helping Ulysses to let him go, not keep him there. So the message to Ulysses was that he needed to build himself a raft, and then he could ride that raft home. So he did. He built the raft and he got onto it and he started sailing. But do you remember the Cyclops that they stabbed his eye out and cheated him and escaped? Well, his father is the god of the ocean, and his father, the god of the ocean, was angry, and he spotted Ulysses on his raft, and so he caused there to be waves and storms, and he destroyed the raft. So Ulysses, barely alive, made it back to the shore of an island. He floated in, and the people of the island found him and said, "What happened? Why are you here?" So he again told their story. And they brought him back to their home, and they fed him and clothed him. And for sport, they decided to have a wrestling match and have a fight. And Ulysses was so strong that he impressed the king. And the king said, "Wow, you're very, very strong. You beat all of us. I'm going to give you 50 men, and those 50 men are going to take you in a ship back to your home." Ulysses said, thank you for your help." So he got on the ship with the 50 men, and he fell asleep. And the 50 men took the ship back to his island, and they carried him and laid him still asleep on the shore of his island and left. But the gods were still angry and punished those 50 men for helping Ulysses because they were angry with Ulysses. And so they sunk the ship, and the 50 men were lost. But Ulysses, on his shore at home, woke up and thought, "Where am I? How did I get here?" And an old shepherd man found him on the beach and recognized him and told him what had been happening at his home. He said, "There are men there who have been trying to get your wife to marry them. They've taken over your land, they've taken over your kingdom. And you have to be careful because they're planning on killing you." And then the goddess Athena showed up to talk to Ulysses. And Ulysses looked and saw a man walking toward him. And Athena said, "That's your son." And he was so excited, he ran to see his son and said, "I'm your father." And Telemachus was thrilled to see his father, and they started talking, and Telemachus told him what had happened and how he needed to get back to his wife, but they were planning on killing him. They had an ambush set for him. So he decided, he made a plan to get back to his home a different way so that he could avoid the ambush. And then he put on a disguise to hide his identity. He dressed as a poor man, and he made his way back to his home. When he got to his home, he asked the men who had taken over his home, who wanted to marry his wife, he asked them, "Can I have some food, please? I'm hungry, I'm poor." And they said, "Get away, you stink, you're dirty." But Ulysses was so upset. He said to himself, he said, "This is my home, this is my food. They're all using mine, they're stealing from me." So he lays there and he started making plans. The next morning, the men lined up and they told Penelope, Ulysses' wife, they said, "It's time, pick one of us to marry. You have to choose one of us. You can't keep stalling." So Penelope said, "Okay, I have a test. Ulysses has a bow that no man can bend. If any of you can bend it and restring the bow, then I'll marry that man." So they all said, "We can do that." So the first man tried, but he couldn't bend the bow. He couldn't get the string on. So they tried the next man, and he couldn't do it either. And one by one, they failed the test. So the men were upset, and they said, "This is not a fair test. You're just cheating. You have to pick one of us to marry." At that time, Ulysses, still dressed as a poor beggar, said, "Wait a minute. I can do this. I'd like to try." And they said, "No, we don't want you to marry her." He said, "No, don't worry. I'm not interested. I already have a wife. I just want to string the bow." So he strung the bow because it was his bow and he was strong enough, and he shot the arrow through the 12 hoops just like he'd done before. All the men were so angry and jealous that they started searching for a weapon to kill him. But Telemachus, Ulysses' son, had secretly taken all the weapons and stashed them away. So there were no weapons to be found. So Ulysses used his bow and the arrows to kill all of the men who had taken over his land and tried to ruin his wife. Meanwhile, the doctor who had treated Ulysses and raised him many, many years ago went to his wife Penelope and said, Ulysses is back. And Penelope said, I can't believe you. My heart's been broken so many times. So then she went into the throne room and she saw a man sitting on the throne. And she said, how can I know for sure that you're Ulysses? And he said, do you remember our bed that I carved from an olive tree? And she said, yes, yes, that's true, it's you. And she gave him a big hug and they were happily united. And their family lived happily ever after.
Stop trying to get me on that.
Start your 125 booth. 2 meters, start your 125 booth.
buildings and figure out what time it is. But if they went inside the buildings, or if the sun went down and it was at night, they didn't know how much time had passed. They had no way to know, so they figured out what to do. So they thought about it a lot, and they noticed that the people that lived in China, and the people that lived in India, and the people that lived in Egypt used water clocks. And so the Greeks and the Romans, and these little teeny places over here, they're like, that's a good idea. So they decided to kind of borrow the idea of water clocks, and then they figured out ways to improve them and make them even better. So the first kind of clock that they used was like this, and that's the same as what I have in this bucket over here. They took a bowl and they put a little wee hole, and they would set it down, and the water would come up. As the water came up, the bowl would sink. So my bucket takes 5 minutes. In 5 minutes, that'll hit the bottom. There was a person who had to stay with the water clock all the time. This person, it was probably their job. They stayed and they waited until the bowl was to the bottom. Then they had to announce that the time had passed, and then they pick up the bottom, dump it out, and start it over again. So, and if any of you notice, if my bowl hits the bottom, somebody just walk over, pick it up, dump it out, set it up, and start it again, okay? Alright, so that's one way I know how much time has passed here when I'm talking. Alright. So that was the first kind. Later they decided to use a different kind. They used pots or jars. And that's a little bit like this one. They would put a hole in the bottom, and the water would come out, water would go down, and it would shoot out. And they could either figure out the time, they could either look and see how much time it took for the water to come out, or they could figure out how much time it took for the water to fill up the other hole. Sometimes they would carve, they would make lines inside of this or inside of that so they could see it easily and know how much time had gone by. They also noticed sometimes it's hard to see water. If water's clear, it's hard to see. Sometimes they would add a little statue or something that would float. So they would stick it up there, so as the water went down, it would go down. And it was really easy for you to see. Or sometimes they could put it down here, and then it would come up. So it would be easier to see than having to stare at the water and figure out exactly where. I have two. One into the second one. Sometimes they had many pots. They could have stair steps. Thank you, Priscilla. They could have water that went all the way down into a bunch of different receptacles. They could have 2, they could have 5, whatever they wanted to do. Later, people invented ways to do more complicated, so when the water would move, it would cause other things to move, and maybe it would cause a bell to ring or gong, different things to happen. You can see in these pictures, they kind of got more complicated and developed more and improved them more and more. Then there was a Greek man a long time ago who supervised, they built this tower. It's called the Tower of the 4 Winds. And that is really special because it was a long time ago. But inside it had a mechanical clock. It had a 24-hour water clock, and it also could show which one of the winds was blowing, and it could show the different parts of the year. If it was summer, or winter, or spring, or fall, there would be different winds happening, and it could show that. It also could show astrological dates. So that was really special. And then even later, this picture, it's not Greek, but it was really cool, so I added it anyway. It's Chinese. That was a water clock, and it was like 30 feet tall, and it had gears and different things, and it had doors on the front that could open and close, and statues would come in and out, and gongs and bells, all kinds of things, but it was all included with a water clock. So that was really amazing that they could figure out how to do that so long ago. Alright, so why did the Greeks need to know the time? What would be important about knowing the time? Why do they need that? Okay. Well, let's suppose if I'm a soldier and I'm standing guard at a castle somewhere overnight. I'm standing guard. How long do I have to stand here? I'm working. How long do I have to stay? Do I have to stay all night until the sun comes up in the morning? So I don't know how much time is happening. So they could use these water clocks. So the guard would know if I stood there and the water goes down, and I start again, it goes down, I start it again, it goes down 3 times. I know my time is done, my work is done. It's the next person's turn. So they could figure out how long they needed to work. They could measure how much time they worked, how much they needed to earn of money. Another thing was the Greeks had court. It's like we have court now with lawyers and things. So if you went to court and you were in trouble, your lawyer was going to stand up and talk and explain what happened. He could talk until the water ran out, and then he had to stop. Then the other lawyer, it was his turn, and he could talk the same amount of time. He could talk until the water went out, and then he had to stop. So that way it was fair. And they also used them for church. If people went to church and there was a preacher, or if they went to a program and something was going to be happening, the person would be talking or acting, then the people could depend on the water clock. So they knew that when the water was gone, they had to stop, so it wouldn't just go on and on and on.
One now.
Goes up to the top.
Okay. So what are you going? Okay.
the citizens of Greece. I see hideous snakes rising from the head of one. The Gorgon, Medusa, has come. A mighty giant eye in the forehead of one. The Cyclops, a bloodthirsty, man-eating creature who fights with a bone that he has ripped a man limb from limb. And I see half man, half bull, Minotaur, mighty, hungry, bloodthirsty Minotaur, have come to take you all. But wait, there is hope. I see mighty heroes that come from around the world. I see Sir Seamus Galshunet come from the kingdom of Talat Naqri to save you, to rescue you. And from across the sea, I see Jonathan Strange has come to battle for you. And there's another, Johann de Waldenherry has come from the lands of the north. And yet another. I see Carolyn McLeod, who comes, a young count, that comes to fight for each and every one of you. Take heart in this. Take heart. The heroes had decided to band together because they realized that alone they were not strong enough to defeat the three monsters. But the monsters are not quite as stupid as they look. They've decided to band together as well. So now comes the mighty battle that will determine whether you will be devoured by the monsters or you will be saved by the heroes. So don't forget to cheer for your heroes. Cheer for them, lest ye all fall to the hideous monsters.
Go.